Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions, like you're checking off boxes, fulfilling obligations, but deep down something feels off? Like you're living a life that doesn't quite fit? If so, you are not alone. Today, so many of us get caught up in doing what's expected, what's practical, or what's responsible without ever really stopping to ask, is this actually aligned with who I am, who God called me to be, and what truly matters? Today, we're hitting pause on autopilot. We're going to stop autopilot, stop living a life of obligation, and start diving into what it means to live a life of alignment, one that reflects our deepest values and purpose. And we're going to talk about why so many of us end up on this conveyor belt of life rather than navigating with a compass where we can reclaim the direction that we're going. I'm going to break down a simple model that I use and that I use with my clients. And I'm also going to talk to you about a story, an inspiring story about Howard Schultz, who was the former, or who is the former CEO of Starbucks, and how he reshaped his entire company by returning to its core values. And most importantly, I want to give you some practical steps to start making changes right now. So if you're feeling stuck, disconnected, or unsure of whether your life is moving in the right direction, this episode is for you. So grab your journal, find a quiet space, and let's do this. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Tammy, and this is The Full Weight of Joy. I had someone ask me, why do you call it The Full Weight of Joy? And really, it came from a conversation I had with another coach. And I was talking and telling her about what I do. And I was like, we can either carry the weight of the world or we can carry the weight of joy. We're going to carry something. And I want to experience the full weight of joy in my life. And so that is how the title of this podcast, it was Her Restored Spirit. And the next iteration, this full weight of joy that we get to step into. And this happens when we have an aligned life, when we have a life that matters, that leads to legacy and impact, one that is aligned and, it's one that we are experiencing who God's called us to be. When we are stepping into who He's called us to be and the amazing assignment that He has for us. And one of the things that I've noticed with life is that many people are on autopilot. This is not new. Have you ever driven home and not remember the steps of how you got there? But clearly you made it there. You were safe. You were paying attention to what's around you. But you're so used to that direction that you can just do it without really thinking about it. Every turn, you stop at the red light, but you don't have to think, oh, do I turn left or right here? And so many times our lives are like that. We're on this conveyor belt where it's like an automatic path moving forward because of obligations, because of expectations, and also because of just societal pressures that it just keeps going, and it's not things that we really choose. If we're careful, it happens more often than not. Well, really, life is about being a compass. It's where we align with what truly matters. Just like when you're hiking and you want to know where true north is, so that way you get to the direction. Because even if you are going to the west, once you know where true north is, you know which direction west is. And so choosing the direction based on our deepest values instead of what's going on around us, whatever, just letting things happen. And so I want you to move off of the conveyor belt, and I want you to grab a compass and start to align with what truly matters to you. And so in order to do this, we have to take action. We have to take steps. We have to do things that are different. And a lot of times when we do something different, it feels awkward. It feels wrong. It feels uncomfortable, which is the most common. Is it feels uncomfortable because we don't really know where it's going to take us. And so one of the things that I do for myself when I am looking for alignment, when I am looking for which direction I want to go in, I use I love archery. I love doing it. I love watching it. And I love the idea that you have to, when you are pulling back that arrow, you have to narrow in on the one spot you're trying to hit. And if you're kind of looking at a bigger, a wider view, you're not going to hit what you want. And so this framework that I use, I call AIM, because it's just AIM, awareness, intention, movement. So when we're looking to have a life of alignment, when we're looking to have a life purpose, and if we want to leave a legacy, if we want the end of our life to be able to say that it mattered, then it means that taking steps towards it now. Life is about being who we're called to be. It is not all about just doing the things that need to be done. And so the first thing that we need to do is the awareness. We need to identify our core values and our purpose. Now, this is not like so many times we get stuck in our head that we have to know this exactly. We have to know our purpose before we take action. And one of the things is I think that our purpose is a lot more than just one sentence. It's a lot more than one to do. It's actually, you step back and it's a mission that we're on. Our purpose is more than just what we are doing in any given moment, but it's what our life means as a collective. Like, what is our ultimate goal? What does God have for us? Like, my mission is to help you be able to shine your light on a hill. It's helped you step into who you're called to be. And some days I'm more aligned with others, where I take more steps forward. But everything I do, that's what I have in mind, is I want to help you grow. I want to help you become more of who God's called you to be. And so you can ask yourself, like, what do I deeply care about? What do I want my life to reflect? Because if we don't stop and ask this, if we don't know and we don't acknowledge what we deeply care about, it's not going to show. We're not going to naturally move in that direction, because we're going to get sucked into just the doings of life. The obligations are, doing what's practical and what's expected and doing the responsible thing. We're going to be asked to do that more and more and more. And we just, and we think that it's the right thing. We think that we're going the right direction. And we may have started out laser focused, like focusing on that bullseye. But if we don't identify them, if we don't look at them and we don't go back and we look at them carefully, we get off track. And so before I go into the A and the I, or the I and the M, excuse me, I want to talk to you about the story that I read about Howard Schultz, who is the former CEO of Starbucks, and he built the company with a mission beyond just coffee. So he wanted to be about community, human connection, but as it expanded, and it expanded rather quickly, like, he was afraid and he saw that it was kind of losing the soul. He's becoming more transactional versus relational. And so in 2008, he stepped back in as a CEO. Like, he like was out of it, and then he came back in, and he closed his 7,100 stores for a day. Like, if you think about that, if every Starbucks in the country, in the world, actually, because this is not just local, this is global, he closed all of them. Could you imagine what people were thinking? Could you imagine, like, the amount of money the company lost that day? But the thing is he had his eyes on something bigger. So he stepped back in as CEO and made some radical changes. And so he closed all 7,100 stores for the day to retrain the baristas on making coffee with passion. So he not only did he remove, like, the artificial ingredients, and he prioritized quality and authenticity. And then he also realigned and refocused everyone and explained to them that the company values and the fact that it's not just about profit. So by taking a step back, by doing something that everyone would have been like, this is suicide. Like, what are you thinking? By realigning Starbucks with its original mission, he not only restored the company, but he also reconnected with the employees and the customers together, and it became something more meaningful. When you identify your core values, when you know what's important to you, and then when you start to, like, identify them, and then your purpose, when you understand what your purpose is, when you ask yourself, what do you care deeply about, and what do you want your life to reflect? That's when you can start looking at what you're doing and see if you want to keep doing it or not. And so the next, after A, which is awareness, then it's I, which is intention. We have to consciously prioritize what matters. Just like Howard stopped all production and was like, we need a massive reshift. We need a massive alignment. We need to change the way we do it. And the only way, if he would have like started at top management and then let it trickle down, it could have taken years. And it probably would have gotten like, it's like the telephone game where you whisper it, you teach it to one person. And by the time you start saying that you love cotton candy, and by the time, it goes down 10 to 12, telephones, it's like, Susie is getting married, like it changes so much. And so if he would have depended on just like letting it trickle down, it would not have prioritized as fast and he could not have made as many changes and unaligned changes. Everyone knew what the changes were. And so for the intention is consciously prioritize what matters. So he wanted connection, he wanted authenticity. And so he prioritized it. And how could that look in your life? Where are you spending time and energy that doesn't align with your values? I do a time audit. I do it, once a quarter, I do it, but I also do it once a month and once a week, where I look at my calendar and I have my values and I look to see what values are not showing up on my calendar. Because if it's not on my calendar, typically it's not something that I'm doing. And yes, I have family time on my calendar. I have time I'm like on Friday, I'm having lunch with a friend who I haven't had lunch with. It's been probably 6 months since I've actually been able to sit down and talk with her. We've had texts back and forth and like, I miss you. Can't wait to see you. But then we were like, okay, let's get something on the calendar because this matters. We both are committed to pursuing this and developing and continuing this relationship. And when I noticed that I haven't been doing that as much. And so when I ask myself, am I consciously prioritizing what matters? And that is why when I do this often, then I don't stray as much and I don't feel as guilty because I don't move away as far as I did when I would not look at my calendar. And there's times that we're so laser focused on one area that other areas are lacking. Well, when you set the intention that to prioritize what matters, and when you ask yourself, where am I spending time and energy that doesn't align with my values? When we're tired, it's typically because we're doing things that don't matter as much to us. Now, they may be important, but important and they may be urgent or someone else is important, but we really need to ask ourselves, are they important to us? Because we're not called to do all the things. We're called to do our things. We're called to do what God is telling us. And it doesn't mean selfishly. It doesn't mean that we are supposed to not do things for other people or not supposed to serve. But it means that we're supposed to look at the assignment God gave us, the purpose that we have, and does it make sense? I use this example a lot because it's so easily, because most of my friends will agree with this, is that like when we're called to serve at church and like every week it seems like they're asking for more volunteers and they're like, we need help in the nursery. And though I could help in the nursery, I know that drains my energy. I am not like, I love your babies. I love them. I that's not something that like sitting and getting baby snuggles, it is not something that lights me up. Now, my friend Sunny, she absolutely loves to sit and cuddle babies. Like she does. And I love that about her. And she's okay with it. I don't know if she loves it about me that I don't want to sit and snuggle babies, but I don't think then she's like, well, yeah, then don't do it. Let me have it all. And so when we say yes to something else, but I say yes in a different way where I work with other adults and help mentor and equip and lead and listen to them, where she's like, that drains me. Sitting and listening to other people, adults, that drains me. And so we get to prioritize and we get to do what matters. Now, if they say we are desperate need of someone to work in the nursery, if I'm there, I'll say, choose me, send me. But it's not something I'm going to volunteer often to do because I know it doesn't align with what the gifts that God's given me. And so the intention part of it is we have to consciously prioritize what matters. And this is not what matters to our friends. It's not what matters to the school. It's not what matters to our job, though those are important too. We can have our job and still, like, even if it doesn't look like it's part of our purpose, there's ways that it is. So we don't have to like chuck it all and move to Bali. We don't have to, sell everything and go in the mission field. but we can still prioritize what matters. You still have your free time, your home time. If family is the most important thing to you, how are you spending time with them? And so A is awareness, I is intention, M is movement. So take a small, consistent actions to realign your life. Start saying no to things that are not in alignment. Don't renew contracts. Don't say yes to coffee if going with that person drains you. If you know that time you actually need to be working on your crafts, or you need to go and work with hold babies, or if you're writing your book, or if you're starting a ministry, like take small, consistent actions to realign your life, which means that set those boundaries up and then live it. So you ask yourself here, what's one small shift? And I want to emphasize small here, because if we make small shifts each day or each week, then it's a lot more sustainable. So ask, what is one small shift I can make today to live more in alignment? And so as we go, as we look at what truly matters to us, and this means getting to know what your core values are, understanding what your purpose is, hear your calling, and listen to what God wants you to do. Listen to what's on your heart, because he's already given you clues. He's already highlighted what your purpose is. And if you listen to last week's podcast where we talked about the just we talked about this maze, and that we are, we're just doing. Once we stop and we start looking at the lighthouse and we start pulling back and getting a bird's eye view, getting a different perspective of how our choices matter and what we're doing, now we're able to say, okay, when we see that, what small alignment shifts? Because when you're trying to hit the bullseye and you hit it one, you pull back, you release the arrow, and you are off slightly, or even you don't make drastic changes. You just align slightly. You move it a little bit to the left, a little bit up, a little bit to the right, a little bit down. Like you don't. And well, I mean, I'm assuming here you at least got it on the board. Sometimes we do, but even so, it's not like you're shooting behind you. You're still shooting. You just shift slightly to get a different result. And that's what I want to focus on, because when we shift slightly, we have a little bit more control over the direction. We can try it out and say, oh, that didn't feel right. Let me try a different direction. We can course correct a lot faster. And it's also not as intensive on our resources and things. So A is awareness. Identify your core values and purpose. If you haven't sat down and done your core values, let's chat, because that's one of the first things that's so crucial to do, is identify your core values. And then it's your understanding your purpose. And again, we're not talking about this one thing that I need to do. I believe our purpose is a lot bigger than that. I believe that it rises above what our day-to-day job is, and which our day-to-day job has a part to play in it. But that's not the determining factor of what our purpose is. I'm looking at it as what is our life mission? And then just, the intention of prioritize what matters. Where are you spending time that doesn't align? And then what movements can you take? What small, consistent actions? For me, one of the things that I am doing is I've started the Bible recap this year. I had, our church talked about it last year, and I had a friend who's like, this is what I do. And so I have been I have a quiet time, but by doing this one consistent action, because I wanted to read the Bible through the year, I wanted to read it through completely in a year. And so that's one small consistent action I'm taking, is I listen to the Bible recap. So I listen to each chapter, and then I listen to her summarize it. And that, I can already feel how that's shifting. So I can still do my prayer time. I actually will still go into one or two verses that spoke to me and dive in deeper with those. But this small step to listening to the Bible, it has helped me to start going towards my dream, towards this goal of finishing the Bible in a year. And so it's not that I have to read an entire chapter, or entire book. By just taking this 2 to 3 chapters a day, I can see how it's going to get there. And I'm actually super excited about it. But just like Howard Schultz took and just closed everything down for a day to reprioritize the quality and authenticity, that he refocused on the core values, not just profit. He he allowed the employees to get more connected. They reconnected with the customers, and it became more of a meaningful experience to them. They started believing that they were a part of something instead of just showing up to work every day. And so when we do this, when we focus on the little actions we're doing, because what does misalignments look like? Misalignments look like burnout. It looks like resentment. It looks like feeling stuck. It feels like lost. You're exhausted and you are just doing all the things versus what alignment looks like and feels like. It's peace, it's purpose, it's fulfillment, it's boundaries. It's a yes and no is a no. There's no guilt attached to it. When we look at what alignment looks like for us, that's when things change. Friend, if you are not in alignment, if there's that feeling, just like we talked about at the beginning of like feeling like you're going through the motions, you're checking off boxes, you're fulfilling obligations instead of deep down feeling like there's something off. If you're on autopilot, if you are managing your life instead of truly living it, if you are trying to figure out your purpose instead of just day to day seeing how your natural strengths and abilities like point to it, that is not a life that you want to stick with. That's not a life. You don't want to feel this misalignment. It is not worth. Life is too short to be on a conveyor belt. Life is too short to be on autopilot. And I know I want more for my life. I want more for my friend's life. I want more for my kids' life. I don't want them seeing that life is a conveyor belt or an autopilot. I want them to see how amazing it is to be an adult and how, yes, we have to adult often. But when we're doing the things that align with who God's called us to be, we can have fun doing it. It's meaningful work. And yes, we may at the end of the day feel exhausted, but we're also exhilarated. We're also so lit up by what he has and the things that we're seeing. And we know that it matters, that we're willing to get up the next day instead of dreading going to work and dreading the things that we have to do. We can look forward to it. And that's what I want for you. And friend, if you want take the first step to getting off the conveyor belt, if you want to find out what is holding you back, I have a quiz for you. So go at tammymurraycoaching.com/quiz and just go. It's 7 questions, just multiple choice, and it takes 2 to 3 minutes. But it will give you that first step. It will highlight what is holding you back. Because life is too short to be held back. It's too short to not live a life of peace and joy and impact and legacy. So friend, get off the conveyor belt and let's hold the compass. Let's reclaim our direction and let's step into who God's called us to be. So go take the quiz. And then I want you to connect with me. DM me on LinkedIn or Instagram. And what do you feel like you're called to do? Like, what is this? Like, what does the conveyor belt look like for you? And what would your compass look like? What is your heart saying that you want more of? I would love to know that. And so DM me, email me, let me know at Tammy Murray Coaching on Instagram and Facebook and at Tammy Imlay on LinkedIn. And I can't wait to connect with you. Go take the quiz because, well, I worked really hard on it and I think it's really good. I think it helps you highlight because when I figured out what was stopping me, I was able to remove it. I was able to get away from that and start moving forward in small steps. So go and aim your arrow. Let's do it. Let's live the life that God's called us to live. Let's live a life of abundance and joy and peace. Let's show our friends, our family, our kids what it truly means to live a life that matters. All right, with that, friend, choose joy until joy chooses you, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.